Australia get a win in the Rugby Championship, folks. Well, wonders never cease. 20 points to 19. Last minute kick to win it from Ben Donaldson after winning themselves a penalty at the breakdown, or Argentina conceding one. Heartbreak for Augustine Creevy. No fairy tale win for him at La Plata in the rain. The Aussies, they can't take a restart to save their lives, but boy, their scrum was better and their work at the breakdown was phenomenal. The kicking from hand could use a bit of work. The Argentinians certainly had the better of the kicking game, finding space behind the Australians, but they conceded a lot of turnovers. The Pumas boys, they will be particularly frustrated there in the wet. We'll go through some key events and some stats, and you guys can let us know your thoughts. But South African fans are probably the ones celebrating because there was a potential for a kind of Bok Pumas showdown if the Pumas had won both their games against the Aussies, but not to be at the minute. So they are big time favourites, the South Africans. As I mentioned, very wet, a lot of rain led to handling errors in the first minute. Rubiolo ended up going off for HIA and he didn't return because he got smashed early on. And Argentina lost their first line out. The kicking from hand, as I mentioned, left a little bit to be desired from Lolosio in particular. But just kind of generally at times. They did win a scrum penalty, which was encouraging. The Aussies, the first scrum of the game, Tupou Ongajo manages to win a scrum. Remember, that was a real area of weakness against the box. Much improved here. And then the Aussies went 27 phases, not going a heck of a lot of territory forward, and in fact at times going backwards a wee bit. Lolosio's dink through was a little bit too big, but the Pumas, not so big that it went dead. Pumas had a goal line dropout, and then from the next kind of wave of Wallabies attack, when the Pumas got their hands on the ball, like Malia showed how you kick from hand with a huge kick to send the Aussies back where they came from. Then from a resulting line-out, Frost ends up giving a penalty away at line-out time, and Santiago Carreras punishes. So 3 points to nil early to the Pumas, despite the fact that they've had to make a ton of tackles, and the Wallabies haven't had to do a heck of a lot of defending. First shot at a Pumas 5-metre maul. Remember, the Aussies have not been able to defend line-out mauls against Wales. They haven't been able to defend them against South Africa. Now they had a chance to defend one against Argentina. It did not go well for the Aussies. They ended up conceding their only try of the game through Juan Martin Gonzalez. He's able to maul that one over. It never really looked like missing, I guess. The kicking game from the Pumas sets up the territory. A breakdown penalty sets up the chance to go for touch. They set up the maul. Why wouldn't you take it with what you've seen from the Aussies against the other sides? 10 points to nil. This is looking like going to the script, and the script is the Aussies are going to come here and get a hiding. Especially when they just couldn't escape their own half. I mean, they did win a couple of turnovers. Tizano, who was impressive, got one of them, at least to kind of get them out of dodge. And then they did manage to get a little bit of momentum. Gajo concedes a penalty at the breakdown. This is something the Pumas will be looking back on. Whether they feel like they're hard done by at the breakdown, it's kind of reminiscent of the earlier game. I won't spoil anything, but we saw a lot of penalties at the breakdown in that game as well. But you need to kind of play to the ref and how the ref is doing it. Sealing off, and the Aussies opt for touch, which was a kind of bold call, opting not to go for 3. They went through 7 phases. They got themselves advantage, and then we saw a nice wee play between Gordon to Ikitau, back inside ball to Tom Wright, and then Wright's able to pop it from the deck to Gordon, who's able to go over for the first try of the game for the Australians. There's a little bit of a question mark about the final pass, but the TMO checked it, and the TMO cleared it as all good. So Aussies back in the game, 10 points to 7. Certainly the best Aussie attacking player of the game. Up until that point, it had kind of looked a little bit lackluster, but they managed to get the kind of skills together. Like they've been able to go through phases before, but unable to really kind of get that X-factor punch through. 31 minutes, it was the Argentinians' turn to go through 10 phases. After, of course, the Aussies had mucked up the restart after just scoring. This is par for the course, apparently, with this side at the minute. It is very frustrating, but it's certainly something they'll be working on. Eventually, the Aussies conceded a penalty, so the Argentinians decided to opt for 3. And we had an interesting moment where the ref kept telling everyone the shot clock is wrong. And again, from the previous game, we saw a moment where people don't seem to realize the clock you're seeing on the screen is not the official timekeeper's clock. So sometimes you might think, oh, full time is up and they've kicked it out. There needs to be a restart. Or he's used all the shot clock, so that kick needs to be, chalked off because time was up. No, the refereeing team has their own timekeeper who keeps the time. So despite the fact that the ref told everyone the shot clock was incorrect, the Aussie player saw the shot clock had expired and started to interfere with the kicker. So the ref had to kind of slow the play down. He had already kicked it, Carreras, but he made him kick it again because he had already blown the whistle to tell the Aussie guys to bugger off and the clock was incorrect. Be nice if they could find a way to sync the two clocks up for the benefit of fans at home and for the players at the stadium, but it is what it is. 13 points to 7. Pumas extend their lead. Then Argentina's turn to concede a few penalties. The breakdown, Lolasio's got a chance to chalk off the 3 which the Argentinians have just got. The crowd is jeering him for all they're worth to try and put him off his kick, and it must work because he misses that one. Lolasio's probably got at least one solid miss in him, by which I mean a kick that he should be getting that he doesn't get pretty much every game. Maybe I'm being a bit harsh, but he missed it, which was the commentary team mentioned as well, a little bit kind of reminiscent of that last game where they played against the Springboks where they had a chance to take the lead at halftime. This one they had a chance to bring it back to 3 points at halftime, but he misses a very kickable one, so they go into the sheds at that 13-7 deficit. It's pretty even. Possessions even, 50-50. Territory is slightly edged in favour of Australia, although they have spent a hunk of time down their own half at one period. Run meters is 132-144 to Australia, but Australia's had 76 carries to 47. So in terms of how much go forward they're getting per carry, that's obviously in the Argentinians' favour. They have won 2 turnovers, though, to none. The Aussies, and they've made the Pumas make 107 tackles to only 44. So, there's a big difference in how many kind of guys are having to commit themselves on defence there. But the Pumas tackling rate, to be fair, is a bit higher. Second half starts with Frost knocking on a restart, of course, because they can't catch the ball seemingly from kickoffs, but their defence is able to hold 10 plus phases, the Aussies, so at least that kind of gets them out of dodge. Then they got a 43-minute scrum in Aussie territory. The Aussies get pinged at scrum time. Matera is absolutely loving that. He celebrates like they've just won the game. Some players do that. It's a good way to kind of get pumped up, I guess. Argentinians opt for a 3, so they extend the lead 16 points to 7. It was an interesting one. I guess it makes sense in the conditions to keep knocking the penalties over and keep extending that lead rather than go for the tries. But given how vulnerable Australia have been at maul time, in hindsight, it's easy for me to say this, but maybe they should have been a little bit more ambitious. 46 minutes, we see Bell put a huge tackle in on defence. Tizano wins another turnover. They're able to get some wide attack. The Aussies, and then Malia, who's having to kind of sweep back, gets driven back by Corbett after he's kind of carried it back into his own goal area. Malia, so it's a 5-metre scrum. What can the Aussies do? Wilson goes blindside from the back of the scrum and gets driven into touch. So I was pretty sure at that moment that the Aussies weren't going to win, because I was thinking that's a golden opportunity and you've kind of fluffed it. I'm not sure you'll get many better opportunities than that one, but to be fair, they scored a couple of minutes later to actually prove me dead wrong, which is happens something quite often. Maybe the most attacking Aussie play we've seen since the previous try. Quick ball, we saw offloads, we saw Ikitau involved, Corbett, Tizano with a kind of pick and go, and then Ballatini able to go over from close range. 16-14, back to game on, and then a few minutes later, we see an Aussie penalty which puts them in the lead. And it's an interesting one, which is maybe highlights a bit of good referee management from Alalatoa. He mentioned how the Argentinian guys were jumping across at line-out time, and not long later there's a line-out, and the Argentinians get pinged for exactly that. 17-16, the Australians are in front. Can they take the restart after just scoring points? Of course they cannot. It is absolutely mind-bogglingly painful to watch the Aussies try to catch restart ball in this game. And then the Aussies put themselves under more pressure when Lolasio's pass to Frost is a bit of a stinker. It's kind of really close to the ground. And the Pumas, from the resulting turnover ball, blow what is undoubtedly their best chance to put the game to bed. Because I feel like if they score here, they probably go on to win the game, where Gajo is over the goal line and just drops the ball. So if that's a try, as I said, I don't think the Pumas lose it. They did manage to get another maul chance later, which somehow the Aussies managed to stop. That was pleasing for them, but not long later the Pumas got advantage anyway and opted for a 3. So they took the lead back 19-17, but that's their final scoring, and it would have been nicer for them if it was 21-17 or potentially 23-17 if they managed to get themselves a converted try. But no. Krevy comes on 72 minutes, and the crowd must know it's his final game because they give him a massive cheer. He comes on in the flank because they've got a bit of a lack of players in terms of like the back line. I think they had Gonzalez out in the back line for this one, so Krevy comes on in the back row. And then again, I'm sure Aussie have blown this because they can't catch high balls. I forget who it was. There was at least 2 high balls. They just, maybe Corabetti and Lolosio couldn't catch them. The Argentinians had taken one not long earlier, showing them how it's done. And then when they did have a counter-attacking play, Jorgensen's pass just got knocked forward. So nothing was going right for the Aussies. But they still managed to keep fighting. 78 minutes, they're going through a load of phases in the Argentinian 22. And then the Pumas get pinged. There's one of those new kind of law variations where anybody who's near a ruck is not allowed to play the 9. The Pumas do this. I think it would have been an okay play last year, but this year under these new laws, that one is a no-go, so the Pumas get pinged for it. It is right out in front. Donaldson takes the clock right down to the last 5 seconds before slotting the kick, which gives the Wallabies a 20-19 victory. First victory in the Rugby Championship this year. First victory in the Rugby Championship for a wee while, seeing as they went through the last campaign winless under Eddie. Maybe this is the start of something better. I don't know. Certainly the scrum looked a bit better. The restarts looked bloody awful, but the breakdown work was incredible, and they managed to score a couple of nice tries. The Pumas will be disappointed at home. They're only able to score 1 try against this Wallaby side, which has been leaking a few points against the Box anyway, but the Box are a different article. Possession finishes 50-50 for your stats. Territory 49-51, edging to the Wallabies, so very tight. Run meters finishes 378 to 278 with the Pumas well ahead there. The carries finish 116 to 114, so very even, and the Pumas getting more kind of pay for their carries. They get fewer defenders beaten though, 23-15, and they get fewer clean breaks, 3-zip. So the Wallabies edge those kind of key X-factor stats. And the turnovers one is maybe the biggest one in deciding this game. 6-1 in favor of the Wallabies. Tackle count finishes 145 Pumas, 119 Wallabies. So the Pumas asked to do a fair bit of defensive work. Penalties conceded is 10-8, so pretty low in the scheme of things, with the Pumas conceding 10. No cards in this one. Individuals, Ikitau beats 5 defenders. Matera has 11 carries, so he was busy. Likewise, Wilson, 11 carries, but he's able to add a couple of turnovers to his game. Tizano, top tackler with 22 for the Wallabies and a couple of turnovers. Crema, 24 tackles. But yeah, the Pumas, in terms of putting themselves in a key position to challenge for this Rugby Championship, needed to win this game. And this is a big, big dent to that campaign. They absolutely need the All Blacks to win one game against the Box, and then they would probably need to beat the Box twice. So, yeah, disappointing one in terms of that, which had been on the cards. But for Aussie Rugby, what a boost on Father's Day here in New Zealand and Australia. I know it's not in sync with many other places in the world, but a good win for the Aussie boys. Really, really much needed. Hopefully for them, this can, kind of give them a bit of confidence, a bit of a boost going into the kind of final 3 games they've got of this Rugby Championship. You guys let us know your thoughts on the game. Subscribe to this channel if you have not done so already. If you want to see a video where I talk whiteboard and blackboard with some Chinese students who showed me around a university campus in China while having a conversation in Chinese. This is very random for a guy making a rugby video, but there's another channel called Two Cents on Tour. We'll put a link up there or down there. Feel free to check that out now that the Rugby Championship games are over for this weekend. You guys take care of yourselves, and I will talk to you again soon. See you later.